Were you thinking about opening a preschool? Well, a good preschool method is the Montessori method. It's been around for over 100 years and it has certain specific materials and methods that have been very helpful in bringing up independent and children with leadership skills. And so, what I do is I make sets of Montessori basic beginning materials, which I've sold generally to schools that are expanding because it saves them a lot of money and time putting all these materials together. But I'd sure like to see more Montessori schools start up because really it's a method that is just excellent in helping children become stronger individuals. So let me describe what I have here. It's kind of in sections. The first section is called Practical Life. In Practical Life, you learn like basic life skills. So I'm going to go through each material that we have here. This first one is a basin and a pitcher, soap, scrubber, towel. That's for hand washing, but it can also be used for table washing. And with these materials, I can also sell you a book that shows you how to specifically, step by step, use all of these materials too. Or, you could just be expanding your school, in which case you already know that. Here's a set of matching cards in a cute little box. This is folding cloths. They have lines drawn on them to give an indication of where to be folded. This is for scooping beans, although you can use a variety of materials in there. This is what's called a pickle picker. Really great for honing up your manual dexterity skills. This is for picking up beads and putting it in the little boxes. This is for tweezing, so even more fine motor skills involved with that. This is color sorting, 5 different colored cups and objects to put in the cups. This is jar opening. So, your 3-year-old can practice on opening different types of containers and putting the lids back on. There's about 6-7 different items in there. This is for scooping and sifting. This is also a little tiny colander, so you could use that with this other tray, which is food preparation. Always a favorite with the children I've worked with. It's got some serving trays. There is a bamboo cutting board, nice little fish tray. This is a melon scooper, knives for buttering up things, grater, another cutting device. This is for like potatoes or apples, and carrot cutter. Let's see, this one is sorting, another sorting of objects. We've got plates, animals, and then these little, very unusual sewn buttons, handmade. Anyway, sort them into this wooden box. It's got 3 different areas for the different objects. This is for mirror polishing, although it could be modified to be shoe polishing, or with a larger scrubber, rock polishing. This one is for water pouring in equal containers. This is for water pouring in unequal containers. Both of those have sponges so they can wipe up any drips. This is for tonging. I'm not very good at it, as you can see while I'm holding a camera, but tonging the objects into the little shapes. This is a fastener board. Typically, Montessori has individual frames for each different item, but I found those kind of awkward to work with. I like this one because it's got smaller different fastening systems to work with, and I believe that's easier for smaller fingers. The ones I've had before just really didn't get that much use. Then there's cutting. There's different scissors. The scissors got kind of a pattern to it. So you can have different shapes that the kids cut out. This is kind of a one that seemed to get used quite a bit, a circular cutting. This is for beading, different colors. Place, set, matching. This is a window, or I guess could be table too, washing station, latchboard. This is musical instruments. You can never have enough music. That's my theory. This would be great for circle time fun. There's about 6 different items in there. Here's a sewing exercise, and then this is for measuring. It also has 3-part cards. And the 3-part cards means you have a card with an image, you have a card with the word, and you have a third card that has the image and the word. So the first thing you do when you're using those is you match the images. And you wouldn't match them all. You would only start with a few at a time and then move up as the child expresses more interest in working with that. And then after you do the image matching, then you can match the word to the image and verify it with the card that has the word and image on it. Here's another cleaning station area. It's got a little vacuum, a duster, a broom, a pan, and even a mop and a little mop bucket. I'm also including a few extras. That's folding cloths, some of the beads, some of the blocks. There's also in there a apron in case they're doing washing so they don't get their clothes wet. So that would be practical life. And then we move into sensorial, which is development of the senses. So the broad stare and the pink tower, those are for sorting and analyzing space and structure that can use separately or together. This is a sandpaper board going from rough to smooth so they can become more sensitized to different textures. Here we have smell. So there's 4 different smells already loaded into here. What they would do is smell each one of these. There's 4 of each, 2 of each of the 4. And then on the bottom, they can verify to see if the colors matched to the blue and the red that were the same. So those 2 would be the same scent. It's like that with a lot of Montessori materials. You want them to be able to verify if they've done it right without having to be corrected. There's a lot of pride in that. And learning is a lot deeper when there's no fear involved with it. These are sounds that they would shake and match. These are 3-part cards for parts of the ear. Here's 3-part cards for different areas of the tongue and the tastes of them with some tasting bottles. These are your knobbed cylinders. I like these smaller ones because they take a whole lot less space. As you can see here, it goes from shorter to longer. So they can start with 1, 2, then 3, then 4, mix them all up, and then sort them out. Your geometric solids. These are really fun to work with. 3-dimensional forms. This is an ovoid. All the Montessori materials are new. The only thing that's used is practical life stuff. Like I look for trays and unusual objects that can be used for these. It takes quite a while to pull it all together, and then I make all the cards too. And there's, there's maybe 120 different sets of cards, so quite a few. For the geometric solids, here's some stands to put them on to match. And then there's the knobless cylinders. You've got green, red, yellow, blue, and then cards that you can match the different shapes to on that. Some fun pentagram shapes. These are your triangle shapes in here. Not just triangle, but octagon and, sextagon. And those, again, you wouldn't have all of these out at once. You would bring them out as the child is ready to move on to something new. If they've expressed interest in it, you want to leave it out on the shelf longer so they can continue to work with it at will. There's the color box number 3 and color box number 2, which are obviously color matching exercises. I don't have a color box number 1 because I've got them as cards. Usually children, by the time they're 3, they know their basic colors, but just in case they don't, you can use the cards. Here's opposites and large to small. This is a bird color exercise. These are shapes and how the shapes look like in our environment to different things. Like this could be for a pool table all your balls in it, the cue, right? This is sequencing cards. These are concepts. This is different shapes, and then there's different triangle shapes. So these are, when you're getting into the different triangle shapes, there's some difficult words there. So that's definitely not 3-year-olds. You're in the 4 or 5-year-old range. This is rhyming. So cork, fork, snake, rake. You've got 2 cards here and all the objects with them. And then in this cute little box, fabric matching. So you'd be blindfolded, have the child or the early learner be blindfolded, have the fabrics laid out, and then they would match the textures that are the same. Also another beginning concept, thinking about different words and situations. These are activity cards. So you would probably, I would say, do it in circle first to show them what each one is, and then you leave it on the shelf so they can choose it at will. So the sensorial is getting you open to new concepts, ideas, honing the skills. But now we want to get into writing, and writing becomes before reading, because what we want to do is work with the sensitive periods, and writing becomes before reading. So you've worked on some of the manual dexterity skills. Well, the metal insets, you're using paper, white paper, and colored pencils, and then they would take these to their table or mat on the floor and draw shapes, either on the inside or on the outside of the shape, mix and match, whatever. It's just that they want to stay within the shape that they're drawing. And I've seen some images that are so beautiful of the children that have put different shapes together in different colors, really works of art. There's a box for the paper for that down here. Also, just thrown in some stencils for the alphabet. Again, some tracing things, but those are letters and numbers. So then once they're familiar with the drawing and the cutting and the sewing and the tweezing and all that, then we're moving on to, well, let's learn the alphabet. So each alphabet letter comes with objects in a cup and 3-part cards. This is an example. Here's the letter A. It's got your objects that match your cards, including a letter. So when you're doing letter study, this is what you would start with. And I usually do like 2 different letters a week. In there, you would include your sandpaper letters so they get the tactile feel and drawing around of what that shape is like. Because it's amazing. You can tell somebody something, but if they actually feel it, see it, smell it, touch it, they're going to remember a whole lot better. These are the small letters and the large letters. I would go through all the small letters first before the large letters, because otherwise it's kind of a lot. This is the sequence matching of the alphabet in letter groups. And here is, let me move that out of the way. Here's the movable alphabet. It has a mat, so you can spell words out. So you would put an object on the side, like one of the cat, and then spell the C-A-T, or any other word you want, or sentences even. With this set, it's kind of different because I found a whole set of alphabet letters, small letters and large letters. This would be like if you're studying A, you would just have the A and 1 stamp pad and paper with lines on there, so they could work with that. Oh, this is actually sensorial too. It's the mystery bag. There's objects in here that they would feel and guess what they are. And you can change the objects in there, kind of shift it around a little bit. So once they've known the alphabet letters and what the sounds of those letters are, then we can move into words. And you would start off with phonetic words. Phonetic meaning you can hear the sound, like cat is k-a. So each sound is pretty straightforward. And in the Montessori method, pink is the 3-letter phonetic words. And so we've got it with all the vowels, sets of 3-part cards, and they all have objects with them that match the images. And there's also some additional exercises that are pink based. For instance, these cards have like a ET, so it would be, actually, I think this one, it'd be net, ret, ket, no. That's got to be a different card for that one. Anyway, there's 5 different cards there that rhyming words that are in the pink range. And then we've got like simple sentence and then a picture to match it. So after you go through the pink range, then you get into the blue. Now, blue's phonetic, but it's more than just 3 letters. And so we've got some 3-part cards and objects. We've got words to read. We've got a sentence to read with pictures to match, just like the pink. And then we have a longer sentence with no image. This isn't really Montessori, but I think it's good actually to have some puzzles too. Like these are pink puzzles, and these are green and more green puzzles. You wouldn't have them all out at once. You'd only have a few. And again, if there's interest shown, that's when you start adding more. Another blue exercise. Is adding the vowel to the word. It's kind of fun, the hands-on. Let's see, then we get into green, and green has non-phonetic. So on this one, we've got long A and short A. So, and there's 2 cards in here, and then there's the letters to match up with them. This one is for plurals. There's 2 of them in here. One's ES and one's S, so they can spin the words around and see how they're different. We've got letter blends that match to images in here. This has to do with single or double letters and whether you hear the sound or not. Here are some sentences to read. Actually, they'd be like command cards. So they would read cover a cough, and so they would do that, perform that. Here's silent E, so time would hide the E and it becomes Tim. So there's a bunch of those words in there. These are word lists of different blends. I think there's 16 cards in here, and so 16 objects, 1 object per card. So they would match the object to the card, but also read the words. Because when you're in green, that's when you're really starting to read. It becomes a little more challenging. These are silent letter exercise. This is punctuation, and there's some stamps that go with that as well. You can put the punctuation that matches the sentence or move the punctuation marks to the different sentences, sound them out, see what the difference is. This is a word with an image to match, similar to the blue. We also start getting into the grammar. This is verbs and nouns separate, and this is adjectives and adverbs, word lists that are sorted out. Let's see, this cute little elephant box. These are compound words. So we'd have like necklace, ladybug, sea horse, pine apple. And so you'd match the 3-part cards, but start first with the image and the object, and then move forward from that point. I'm also including in this set, it's a basic paper cutter. I don't have any paints in here because it depends on how much space you have, whether you're going to have it done at a table or you have its own stand. But anyway, this is like 18 inches wide, and it's pretty easy to use. And so now that's moving us away from language, and there are other language exercises in the book, but again, this is your basic starter package. Now we start to get into numbers. So the idea is that there's objects per number. Like if you had a 1, then you would have just 1 of these. This is similar to like the spindle box in Montessori. If you had 2, you would count 1 and 2 and put them there. See? So that gets them familiar with the idea that there's quantities involved with the numbers themselves. And of course, we would start it with sandpaper letters so they get familiar with what the number actually looks like. Another way to do that is you have the number you'd match to the paper number, and then you have the counters. So for 6, you would take out 6 discs and line them up below the numbers. And also the starting one, another way to get familiar with the counting are your number rods. So it'd be counting as 1, 2. Of course, you'd start up with them all mixed up, and there's 2 sets here, so you'd only really use 1. But then you put the number below. Actually, this is 10 would be all the way over here, so go right below it. Again, getting familiar with the idea of quantity next to the symbol. And then once they're familiar with that, then we start getting into the teen and the 10 board. So there's little number chips in here that you slide in on the side. And then you have beads to go with it. So this is a 10 bead. So if you had a 1 slid into here to 11, you would take a 10 bead and then the 1 and put it next to it. Again, getting the idea of counting, familiar with what the symbology of that is. Then the introduction to the decimal system is done with beads. So the counting beads, you count out the 10 of the singular and say that is now a 10 bar. And then you count out 10 of the 10 bars, then that is 100 bar. Same thing with the 1,000 cube. So that's actually, the beads are sort of like the object, but then we're getting in the numbers with these ones, which are the decimal introduction cards. And they actually stack on top of each other so that you can see, like a 3,000 would have maybe a 400 on top of it, a 20 on top of that, a 0 on top of that. And so that gives them the idea of our 10-base system. And a good way to work with that is the stamp game. It's a little different. They don't stack on each other, but they are added below each other. So if we had a number written out and it was, say, 121, that's how they would lay that out. So you'd have a sheet of numbers and then you'd match the stamp games to it. But again, in the book, it describes step by step how to use all of these materials. The next one we have is an addition-subtraction board. And that is where you'd have like a bar that's a 6 on it, and you'd add a 2, and then now you've got 8. And it's the same thing if you have an 8 and you take away the 2 bar, now you're left with 6. So it's a very visual, hands-on expression of addition and subtraction. In this set, I'm not including any of the paper printouts because you can go to Teacher Pay Teachers and get all that stuff for free. These are your fraction discs. So they would, I've got them rubber band together now for transportation, but they'd be separated, all of these, and then they would put the individual fraction skittle on top of the card that goes with it. And then you can use these number cards. Let's see, where are the 2s? There should be 2 halves in here somewhere. Yeah, there's one of them. Here's the other one. So if you have 2 halves, that makes 1 whole. And just for fun, I threw in some foam ones that go up to 12, as well as some fractions showing what that looks like. A lot of people use the pizza, cutting it up into pieces, and that's kind of fun too, but this takes it a little bit further. You can go into all kinds of different fractions. Then the next area I would just call science, really. Science would be, if you're doing unit studies, let's say you want to study horses 1 month. So I've got 3-part cards that describe different parts of the horse. Having an object's good, not necessary, but good. Or if you have a puzzle, we've got some puzzles that go here too. There's the horse puzzle. And you would have horse stories and horse pictures, and you can do so many different things. It's amazing. Anyway, I'm going to roll through these cards real quick that we've got here. This is parts of the eye with magnifying glass. Here's bones, bone types with a skeleton. Here's different grains, different leaf types, different kinds of butterflies, reduce, reuse, recycle, animal tracks, flowers and seeds, tools, shells, animals with and without a backbone, different kinds of beings, different kinds of monkeys, different kinds of cats, our solar system, that is famous artists, living and non-living sorting. And then I like to use a lot of the animals that they have at Tube Safari because it just seems like they're made, with good detail, good paints, and, they're not that outrageously expensive in these smaller packages. Anyway, there's the images and the objects. And we've got sea animals, pets, farm animals, dinosaurs, insects, and birds. And then I've got back here a card of minerals, and it's got mineral specimens that they would match to each individual type of mineral. This is your compass and the directions to learn about that. Here's parts of a fish. Here's parts of a flower. Parts of a bird are back there. Parts of a leaf. Parts of a tree. Parts of a frog with a cute little frog, just for fun, a slinky. This is a magnet bars. One is a low magnetized and one is a high magnetized. And they would go around and try different things and see what would stick and how well it would stick. Those are both about the same on that slinky. And again, I mentioned puzzles. The puzzles that I have are the flower, the fish, the bird, and of course the horse. Now we have parts of the tooth, different vegetables, different types of sea life, different types of fruits, analog and digital time, parts of a volcano, different types of water forms, famous architecture, different kinds of clouds. This is land, water, and air sorting. You've got these objects that go in the cups, but they also have the cards with images so they can sort those out. And then here's a color tray. So you'd put yellow, red, blue water in there with your colored water drops. And they can use tweezers. This is clear water. And they can tweeze in the colors and see how the colors change when they're put together. Also, here's kind of a little color wand to look through the window at. Some more color expression. Another part about Montessori that I just love is the continent study. Of course, we have the planisphere above here, which describes the continents. It's a puzzle. They can take the pieces out. They can trace them on here, and then they can poke out and then tear out the continent and make their own planisphere. But you would introduce it to them beginning with the globe because our world is round. And the hands-on is really nice. That comes off the peg. I also have boxes for each of the continents. So, like if we go to Asia, they have some animals that are particular to Asia. So we've got 3-part cards and the animals that match them. I've thrown in some stamps from the area. But over time, you can add different things like coins that are from the area or pictures of people and the different kind of clothing they wear and add them to that box. And you would take probably one continent a month and study that continent. You can read storybooks from that area as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of materials here. The whole idea of doing this is that, for one, I used to be a teacher and I really enjoyed working with the children. But time went on and I'm not doing that anymore, but I am putting these packages together. And this one is for sale. You can buy just all the materials without the shelves or the shelves too. It really depends on where you're located, whether that's cost effective or not. I'm located in Central Florida. And so I can deliver to you, but you'd need to get a hold of me so we can discuss what your needs are with that. If there are individual things that you need, I do have a website called inspirationearlylearner.com, and between the words are dashes. So you have to put it in like that, otherwise Google won't find it for you. But anyway, this will get you going. And besides a book that describes everything, it's possible to get training as well. So please contact me. And thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.